Hey guys, tonight we're going to follow a path that appears only when the mind is quiet enough to notice it. In the stillness of a soft, late afternoon, beneath a blanket of gentle fog, there lies a trail hidden by time. It winds gently through the tall grass, barely more than a whisper among the trees, as if it remembers fewer footsteps than most. One could walk past it 100 times and never see it, but on certain days, when the air is cool and still, and your heart moves a little slower, it reveals itself. We step onto it now, not in haste, but in a hushed kind of curiosity. The kind that doesn't seek answers, only presence. With each slow step, the world grows quieter. The breeze begins to sound like breath. The leaves rustle softly, like a hush spreading through the forest. You move slowly, not from weariness, but because anything faster would feel like disturbing a long-held silence. The woods seem to fold around you, like a thick blanket drawn up to the chin of the earth. Pine trees rise on either side, their trunks tall and worn smooth with time. Their branches form a canopy above, filtering light in dappled patterns. The forest floor is soft with old needles, laying down a quiet carpet beneath your feet. There is no rush here. No urgency. The forest speaks in long silences and soft murmurs. Each sound is small and kind, a distant flutter, a quiet bird call, the faint rustle of something unseen. Even the wind seems to move slowly, weaving itself around the branches like thread. A moss-covered boulder sits by the path, round and unmoved. Its surface is blanketed in soft green, cool to the touch. You pause there, sitting gently. The scent of pine and damp earth surrounds you. For a moment, nothing moves but the breeze, weaving gently through the trees. You feel time stretching thin, like morning light through gauze. The sun filters through the branches above in golden fragments, and you notice the way light dances on the edges of leaves, how it settles into the hollows between roots like a memory. Somewhere nearby, water trickles faintly. A stream, perhaps. Its sound is distant but soothing, adding to the slow rhythm of this place. You begin walking again, your steps light and deliberate. Small ferns grow along the edges of the path, curling softly as if stretching after a long rest. Tiny mushrooms dot the base of tree trunks, pale and delicate. The air feels cooler here, more shaded, and you take a deeper breath, filling your lungs with the scent of growing things. Soon, you come to a wooden bridge, faded silver gray with age. Its planks are firm beneath your step, though they groan softly as you cross. Below, a narrow stream moves slowly, its water clear and golden in the light. It glimmers over smooth stones, whispering as it passes. You kneel at the edge and scoop water into your hands, cool and clean. You make a small cup of tea from a bundle you've brought, letting the steam rise into the forest air. You drink slowly, feeling the warmth in your hands and chest. You sit for a while on the bridge, feet dangling over the side. The water below continues its quiet work, polishing stone and memory alike. A leaf floats by, carried without resistance. You watch it until it disappears downstream. The bridge creaks gently beneath you, not in protest, but in welcome. It has held many before you and will hold many after. Beyond the bridge, the forest opens into a small meadow. Sunlight lies across it like spilled silk, warm and drowsy. The grass is high and soft, dotted with wildflowers and smooth stones. Some stones stand upright, others lay half buried, like resting forms in the sun. You pass through the meadow at a gentle pace, brushing your fingers over blossoms as you go. The scent of clover and lavender rides on the breeze. Bees move lazily from flower to flower. The sound of wings is slow and steady, like the ticking of a sleepy clock. You lie down for a moment in the softest patch of grass. The sky above is pale and cloudless. Time stretches here. A butterfly lands nearby, folds its wings, then opens them again in silent rhythm. you close your eyes. For a moment, there is nothing to do but breathe and exist. The earth beneath you hums a quiet song, and you feel your heartbeat begin to match it. At the far edge of the meadow, something catches your eye. A shape behind the trees. A steep roof, dark with age, covered in leaves. A cabin nestled into the shadows. It stands quietly, its window panes dusty and soft with time. Vines curl around its edges, not as invaders, but companions. The house does not ask anything of you. It simply exists, waiting, perhaps, or resting. You approach slowly, as though returning to a place you've only seen in dreams. The door is slightly open. It creaks low and easy as you press against it. Inside, the air is cool and still. The scent of wood and dust wraps around you. Light comes in softly through the window, catching little notes that swirl in the stillness. Everything is quiet, and in that quiet, everything is alive. The floorboards beneath your feet are smooth with time. A coat hangs near the door, its shoulders softened by years. A pair of boots rest neatly beside it. The room feels untouched, not abandoned, but paused, as though its story is simply waiting for someone to notice it again. You take a breath, deep and slow. The cabin does not greet you, but it welcomes you all the same. And here, in this space between memory and stillness, our journey begins. The next morning, the forest is hushed with a kind of silence that listens. You step softly onto the pine-covered path, where the needles are thick and golden brown underfoot. They form a soft, endless carpet that mutes each footfall like a memory being gently tucked away. The air is still, yet alive with unseen motion. Each tree stands tall and timeless, its bark furrowed with stories the wind has whispered across generations. The pine trunks stretch upward, straight and strong, forming corridors of filtered green light. Their branches sway in slow harmony, responding to a breeze so subtle it's barely more than a thought. You walk beneath them, your breath falling into rhythm with the forest's own, and you begin to notice things that might otherwise be missed. The slight tilt of a branch, the way moss climbs partway up a trunk, stopping just before the light reaches it. High above, a few birds flutter between the pines, not in song, but in soft, weightless movement. Their wings create no more than a faint hush, like paper slipping gently across wood. A pinnacone drops somewhere nearby, not loudly, but with a small, significant thud, as if marking the hour on a clock no longer needed. The forest accepts the sound without response, folding it into its gentle breath. You stop and kneel near a tree, where a patch of fern spreads outward like green lace. Each leaf is traced with dew, still clinging to the cool hush of morning. You run your fingers through the fronds, not to disturb them, but to feel the texture of stillness. Around you, a low hum rises, not mechanical, but natural. It's the sound of things growing, breathing, waiting. The farther you wander, the deeper the hush becomes. You pass a hollow tree, where something once nested, now empty, yet not abandoned. Its curve is smooth and hollowed by time, like a bowl held out in offering. A fallen branch rests nearby, draped in thin moss that sways slightly in the low light. You pause to admire it, as though it were a sculpture placed intentionally for anyone slow enough to see. It seems the forest has been expecting you, or someone like you, and has left gifts for the patient and quiet-hearted. A squirrel darts up a trunk, pausing midway to peer at you. Its motion is quick, but even it seems softened here, its movements smaller, more considerate of the quiet. You stand still until it disappears into the higher branches. Above, the wind moves gently, shifting the topmost needles and creating a sound like the soft turning of pages in a distant room. Far ahead, the forest narrows and a small clearing appears. In the center, a shallow pool mirrors the treetops. Its surface is undisturbed, perfectly still, until a single leaf falls and lands upon it, creating ripples that reach gently outward and vanish into the silence again. You watch this, the fall and the fading circles, and feel your own thoughts quieting in tandem. You sit by the water's edge and let the stillness fill you. There's no story to tell here, only presence to absorb. A dragonfly passes, its wings a soft blur, its presence so brief it feels like a blink of light. Somewhere above, a pine branch sighs under the weight of morning. It isn't dramatic, just the world shifting slightly in its seat. The smell of damp bark and sweet resin deepens as the air warms slightly with the sun's quiet rise. You take out your flask and sip warm tea, the aroma mixing with the pine-sweet air. There is something grounding in the act of drinking tea outdoors, especially here, where even the smallest gesture feels like a kind of ceremony. The steam curls upward, then disappears, blending seamlessly into the day. You don't think about what time it is. You don't think about anything at all. Eventually, you rise and continue deeper, your steps measured, as if moving through a dream you don't want to end. Every few feet, the forest offers a new sound, the soft drip of water from a high branch, the rustle of something small in the underbrush, the creak of a tree adjusting to the light. None of it alarms. Everything simply exists in harmony with itself. The forest accepts your presence, as it does the sunlight and the breeze. You come upon a fallen log, half covered in lichen and crumbling gently at the edges. You sit and run your hand over its surface, feeling the warmth of the wood touched by sun. It's not smooth, but it's soft in a different way, warm, giving, forgiving. You imagine how long it has been here, slowly returning to the soil. A tiny beetle scuttles across the bark, pausing briefly before disappearing into a crevice. Everything here has its place, its pace. From here, you can see shafts of light angling through the trees, each one like a soft invitation. Dust motes drift in the beams, each one moving slowly, aimlessly, as if unsure where to land. You lean back slightly and close your eyes. In the distance, a gentle breeze moves the trees again, a slow rustle that sounds almost like waves on a very quiet sea. The pine scent deepens as the morning settles in. The sound becomes a lullaby, and though you don't sleep, you feel something inside you rest. No thoughts pull, no memories tug. You're simply here, a part of something old and gentle and whole. And for now, that is more than enough. You lie back, letting the forest hold you, feeling the ground beneath you breathe. Time loosens its grip and becomes as soft as the moss beside your cheek. This is the forest's gift, the ability to soften everything, to cradle the noise of the world and quiet it until only breath remains. You open your eyes, and for a moment, the light seems softer, the trees even taller, the path even more inviting than before. You rise, leaving only the smallest imprint in the pine needles behind you. The whispering continues, not behind you, not ahead of you, but all around. You are no longer just passing through the forest. You are part of it, and it, in its own quiet way, is part of you. The path grows quieter as you walk, though it was already so hushed that you hadn't thought silence could deepen. But it does, in small and subtle ways. The sound of your steps is nearly gone, cushioned by the ever-thickening moss beneath your boots. The trees here lean in a little closer, as though watching with quiet interest, their trunks covered in velvety green that climbs high up the bark like an old coat. Here, everything is slower. The light is dimmer and softer, and the air feels cooler, as though it has rested a long while in the shade. The moss grows thick across low stones and along the roots that twist out of the earth like old, sleeping limbs. You pause by one particularly large root that juts from the soil and curves upward, rounded and smooth as if shaped by time and rain and wind into the likeness of a curled hand. All around, the forest breathes in gentle rhythms. A branch sways, a leaf drops, a bird coos once, then stillness returns. Your eyes follow the path as it winds slowly, turning with the natural curves of the land, and something tugs at the edge of your memory, Not a specific event, but a familiar emotion, a feeling of having been here before in some distant dream. You come upon a clearing, not wide, but open enough to let in light. The sun filters down through the trees and lands on a group of boulders, smooth and large and entirely covered in moss. They rest like animals dozing in the warmth, undisturbed for decades. You sit on one of them and find it warm and dry. Around you, the scent of moss mingles with that of old pine and damp bark. You lean back and close your eyes, feeling a hush wrap around you like a shawl. When you open them again, your gaze settles on the tiniest of flowers blooming from a crack in one of the mossy stones. It is pale violet, delicate and small, and it sways just slightly in a breeze too light to feel. There is a quiet persistence in it, life emerging from rock, tender yet resilient. You admire it, then shift your gaze to the edge of the clearing, where a row of low stones forms a crooked line beneath the moss. You walk closer, kneeling gently beside the line. The stones are smooth, rounded, and partially sunken, as though they were once part of a structure now long forgotten. You brush away some moss, revealing faint etchings on one of them, too weathered to read, but unmistakably shaped by human hands. The marks don't need to be interpreted. Their purpose now is not to inform, but to remind someone was here once. Someone built, rested, paused, and then the forest returned to cover it with softness. You remain still for a while beside the stones. You don't speak. You don't need to. There is something sacred in the quiet recognition of time's gentle sweep. In the presence of moss and memory, you are both guest and kin. You breathe deeply and feel your body grow heavier in the most pleasant way. The forest doesn't ask you to remember anything. It simply lets you be. Moving on, the path narrows again. It's barely more than a suggestion now, just a slight flattening of moss and leaf, winding through the trees like a whispered sentence. You follow without thinking, letting it lead. Along the way, you spot a tree that has fallen long ago. Its trunk is hollow, covered in lichens and bracket fungi, which fan out in pale shades of beige and green. Inside the hollow, you see soft dirt, leaves, and what remains of an old nest, just a tangle of twigs and feathers. No longer in use, but not forgotten. A shaft of light cuts through the canopy, spotlighting a patch of forest floor ahead. It lands on an old tree stump, wide and low, worn to a smooth surface. Something about it invites you to sit, and so you do. Around you, time pauses again. The hush grows deeper, as though the trees are holding their breath. Your eyes trace the patterns of bark and lichen, and the world narrows to these simple, perfect details. The ground beneath your feet is uneven but soft. Roots weave in and out of the earth like threads, connecting everything. You imagine the stories held within them, the water they've drawn, the storms they've weathered, the stillness they've endured. Your fingertips graze a patch of damp moss, and its coolness lingers on your skin. You close your eyes once more, and the forest hums its lullaby, low and constant and full of patience. Somewhere nearby, water drips slowly from a leaf into a small puddle, a rhythmic sound like a clock that has forgotten its urgency. Each drop is a gentle punctuation mark in the long sentence of silence. You feel your breath sensing with it, your thoughts loosening, your body sinking into a quiet that feels older than you. And then, just as you begin to rise again, you catch sight of something near the base of a tree, just a faint depression in the moss, like a footprint, softened by time. Not fresh, not recent, but unmistakably human. You don't follow it. You don't need to. Its presence is enough. Like the etchings on the stone, it simply says, someone was here. As you return to the path, you feel yourself carrying more than when you arrived. Not weight, but a lightness born from connection. The memory of moss, the scent of pine, the hush of ancient roots. They stay with you, woven into your breath and bones. And the trail, ever gentle, ever slow, continues forward without asking anything of you but your presence. You follow it, surrounded still by the soft hush of trees and time, moving ever so slowly toward whatever quiet wonder lies ahead. The path bends slowly, as if it too is pausing to breathe. You follow its curve past low ferns and shaded tree trunks, your steps soundless over the soft carpet of earth and pine. The moss begins to thin, replaced by patches of sandy soil and scattered stones worn smooth by time. There's a faint, rhythmic sound, now not footsteps, not wind, something lighter, more fluid. You slow instinctively, listening. Ahead the trees part gently, opening like curtains drawn back with care. A trickle of light spills in, catching on the silver surface of moving water. You step closer, and there is a small wooden bridge, waiting patiently across a shallow forest stream. The stream itself is narrow and clear, winding through the forest floor with the soft gurgle of water that has nowhere urgent to be. The bridge is simple, its weathered planks silvery and soft at the edges. No rails, no carvings. Just a gentle arc of wood spanning the water, nestled quietly into the banks as though it grew there. Time has brushed it with softness. Moss climbs its edges, and ferns nudge at the sides. The planks give slightly beneath your weight, but not dangerously more, like an old companion, sighing with memory. You pause in the center and look down. The water flows beneath you, revealing smooth stones, fallen leaves, and the occasional flicker of a shadow of fish, perhaps, or just the ghost of sunlight moving over water. The stream's sound is rhythmic and soft, like breath slipping through parted lips. You lean on your knees, watching the patterns ripple outward. Each moment stretches gently into the next, like pages slowly turning. You step off the bridge and onto the soft grass beyond. There's a flat patch of earth here, just large enough for resting. You set down your bag, moving slowly, not wanting to disturb the hush. Nearby, a stone rises like a natural seat, warm from the morning sun that filters through the trees. You reach into your bag and bring out your tea things, a small flask of hot water, a cup, a tin of leaves you tucked in before leaving. The act of preparing tea here, beside a bridge in a forgotten forest, feels like something ancient and meaningful. Not a task, but a pause, a moment held open for breath. You spread out a cloth and place everything with gentle care. You open the tin and take in the scent earthy, herbal, with the faintest memory of dried flowers. You add a small pinch to your cup and pour the water slowly, steam rising in soft coils that vanish into the light. You wait, watching the leaves swirl and settle, the color deepening with each quiet second. As the tea steeps, you let your eyes drift across the clearing. A low breeze moves through, rushing the tall grass and stirring the surface of the stream. A dragonfly hovers near the bank, its wings flickering like soft glass. It lands on a reed, then lifts again, disappearing into shadow. A bird calls from somewhere high, not urgently, but as if testing the air. The tea is ready. You lift the cup with both hands, feeling its warmth before you take the first sip. The taste is soft and grounding, like damp soil and sunlight mixed together. You let the flavor linger, each sip slowing your thoughts further. There's no need for reflection, no unraveling of meaning. Just this hot tea, soft earth, and the hush of the stream. After a while, you set the cup down and stretch your legs. Across the stream, you notice a second path faint, almost shy disappearing into a grove of smaller trees. The bridge connects more than banks. It joins two quiet worlds. The thought doesn't press for attention. It simply floats by, like a leaf on the water, turning gently as it goes. You walk back toward the bridge, placing your feet where they had been before. The planks are cool now, shaded. You pause once more at the center, looking again into the slow-moving water. Its surface reflects the leaves above, dappling and blurring them with its gentle current. The forest, mirrored here, seems like another world upside down and shimmering. You sit at the edge, your feet just above the water. The stream chatters softly, brushing past the stones, threading itself around small branches and forgotten twigs. There's no urgency to it. It just flows. You close your eyes and breathe, letting your thoughts drift in the same gentle way. Somewhere upstream, a leaf falls and lands on the surface, sending ripples outward that pass beneath you. Each ring widens, then disappears. Another moment. Another breath. The stream accepts them all without question. And you, sitting here, feel yourself becoming lighter, like something small and weightless carried gently on the current. You lie back against the planks, letting the warmth of the wood seep into your back. Your hand trails lazily through a patch of clover nearby, their leaves cool and soft against your fingertips. Overhead, clouds shift slowly between the trees, trailing shadows across the bridge and the stream. A breeze stirs again, moving the tips of the nearby reeds. Their rustle is so quiet you almost miss it, but it's there, a gentle brushing, like fingers combing long grass. The forest never stops speaking, but it never raises its voice. You listen with your whole body. Eventually, you gather your things, wrapping up your tea tin and flask, folding the cloth you placed beneath them. The clearing waits quietly as you stand, as if holding your memory like a pressed flower between its pages. You take one last look at the bridge, simple, weathered, still. As you step once more onto the path, you feel the water's rhythm following you, even after the stream has disappeared behind a curve in the land. Its sound lingers in your thoughts, like a lullaby without words. The trail begins again, soft and welcoming. The forest deepens again. The light shifts. But something from that bridge stays with you, the stillness, the ceremony of tea, the way a moment can stretch long and gentle when nothing hurries it, the memory of wood beneath your steps, the shimmer of light on water, the warmth of the cup in your hands. You continue walking, slowly, softly. The trees rise again around you, but now something inside feels quieter, like a ripple that has stilled. In the hush, you carry everything not as weight, but as warmth. And far behind you, the bridge still waits, quiet and unchanging, part of the forest's long memory. The path leads you away from the stream, curving gradually through a corridor of birches whose slender trunks gleam like quiet sentinels in the soft afternoon light. Their pale bark peels in curled ribbons, fluttering slightly in the breeze. The hush of the forest is unbroken, save for the occasional creak of branches swaying, high above, or the delicate rustle of leaves shifting overhead like whispered thoughts. Your steps are light, your breath easy. The air smells faintly of damp earth and drying wood, touched now and then with the scent of distant flowers carried on the wind. As you walk, the trees begin to space themselves wider apart. Their shadows stretch long fingers across the path, but they do not follow you far. Soon, the green canopy begins to open, and you find yourself stepping slowly into a meadow. It is a quiet place, still and sunlit, the kind of clearing that feels as though it has been waiting for centuries, patient and undisturbed. The grass is tall and soft, gently bending with each shift in the breeze, and tiny blossoms are scattered like whispers through the green. Pale blue, soft yellow, and the occasional deep violet bloom where they please, with no rows or rules, only the natural order of time and soil. In the heart of the meadow lie the stones. They are not arranged in any clear pattern, yet their presence is unmistakable. Some stand partially upright, leaning slightly, as though they began to rise long ago and then changed their minds. Others lie flat, half covered by moss and wildflowers. Their surfaces are worn smooth, dulled by decades, perhaps centuries of rain, wind, and sun. They do not speak, but they hum softly in the stillness, the way old things do. You walk slowly among them, feeling the grass brush against your ankles, your fingertips brushing the tops of the taller flowers. The stones are cool to the touch, even in sunlight, and each one seems to carry its own gentle gravity. Some are no bigger than a loaf of bread. Others are large enough to sit on comfortably, though you sense they would never mind being left alone. One in particular draws you toward it. Oval-shaped and low, almost level with the earth, it rests in the shadow of a wild rose bush that has grown up beside it. The bush is blooming, its small pink petals slightly curled at the edges, as if in quiet laughter. You sit beside the stone and lean back onto your hands, letting the warmth of the sun soak into your shoulders, your neck, your face. The wind moves gently through the meadow, combing through the grasses, shifting the light across the petals and blades like ripples on a pond. Somewhere at the far edge, you hear the faint buzz of bees, busy but never hurried. A bird sings once, then falls silent again. Everything is alive here, but nothing is loud. As you sit, your gaze softens. You stop looking for anything and simply begin to see. You notice how the grasses sway in slow waves, each movement unique, yet joined in the same rhythm. You see a cluster of mushrooms nestled at the base of one stone, their pale caps pressed close together like sleeping children. A butterfly lands near your shoe, rests for a moment, and then flutters upward without a sound. There is no sign here of who placed these stones or why, no markers or inscriptions, no stories carved into them, only stories held gently within. You wonder if they once marked something, an old gathering place, a family garden, a resting spot long forgotten. But the meadow does not offer answers. It offers only peace. Lying back, you let your eyes drift to the sky. It stretches high above, pale and endless, feathered with slow-moving clouds. They glide like sailboats across an unseen sea, never hurried, never lost. The sun, warm and forgiving, bathes the meadow in a light that feels like memory soft, golden, and familiar. Time here does not move forward or backward. It only deepens. You close your eyes for a while, letting the quiet fold around you. Not sleep exactly, but something just beside it. A rest that feels like being gently held. The stones do not judge. The grasses do not intrude. The earth simply breathes beneath you, steady and slow. When you open your eyes again, a single petal has landed on your arm. You watch as it trembles slightly, caught between staying and drifting away. You sit up slowly, brushing it off with emotion, so gentle it could almost be a thought. You rise and walk once more among the stones. Each one you pass feels like an echo, not of words, but of presences of people who once sat here, perhaps, or thought here, or simply paused long enough to be remembered by the land. You don't try to decipher them. You only acknowledge them as you might acknowledge a friend across a quiet room. At the far side of the meadow, you find another large flat stone, shaded by an old oak whose branches stretch wide and comforting. You sit again, this time with your back against the tree, and watch the sun slip a little lower in the sky. Its light grows warmer, deeper, casting long shadows from the stones that make them look like sleeping animals curled in the grass. From here, the meadow looks like a world between worlds, a place that holds its own kind of truth, one that doesn't need to be spoken, a truth made of silence, softness, and the patience of growing things. You sit for a long while, long enough to feel your thoughts loosen and drift like leaves on the wind, long enough for the meadow to begin to feel familiar, as if you've always known this place, or dreamt of it more than once. Eventually, you know it's time to go, not because the meadow tells you, but because the path calls gently from beyond the trees. You stand, brush the grass from your clothes, and look once more across the clearing. The stones remain untouched and unbothered. The flowers nod gently in the breeze. The grasses part for your footsteps, and then close behind you without a sound. As you leave, you do not feel as though you're leaving something behind. Instead, you carry it with you, the warmth of the sunlit stone, the hush of the wild flowers, the memory of stillness that lives between the stones. The path meets you where the meadow ends, curving once more into the shade of the trees. And as you step into the coolness of the woods again, you carry the meadow quietly with you, tucked somewhere just behind your ribs, like a soft, forgotten song waiting to be hummed again. The forest receives you again without a sound. As you step away from the meadow's embrace, the trees grow closer, their branches bending inward like the arms of old companions. The sunlight fades into slivers, filtered through a canopy that thickens above. Your steps soften over the forest floor, where the earth is springy with old pine needles and fallen leaves. There is a hush here, deeper than before. It's not silence, but something more delicate, like the quiet between thoughts or the pause between breaths. The path narrows, barely more than a trail now, winding gently between tall trunks that seem older, more watchful. Some lean at slight angles, their roots heaving the ground upward in slow, patient movements only time can make. You walk slowly, drawn forward not by urgency, but by rhythm. The air is cooler here, touched by moisture and the faint scent of lichen-covered bark. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls once and then goes still again, as if it too is listening. The forest feels like it's waiting, not for anything dramatic, but for the soft recognition of something returning. And then you see it. Just ahead, beyond a stand of cedar and fir, something shifts in the shape of the shadows. At first, it's only a suggestion, angles that don't belong to branches, lines too straight to be roots or fallen logs. You blink slowly, letting your eyes adjust to the dim green light, and the structure comes into view. It doesn't appear all at once. It reveals itself like a memory, slowly and without fanfare. A roof first, steep and worn, sloping gently downward beneath a layer of leaves that have gathered over many seasons. They lie undisturbed, golden brown and soft, resting like a blanket across the wood. The roof's edge is trimmed with moss, trailing downward in little beards that sway gently in the faint breeze. Beneath the roof line, the outline of a cabin begins to take shape. Not large, not grand. A single story, perhaps two at most, nestled quietly into the earth, like something grown rather than built. Its wooden walls are gray with age, softened by weather and time, and nearly blended into the forest around it. Vines have crept up one side, their leaves trembling faintly in the stillness. The windows are small, their panes dulled with dust and age, and partially veiled by delicate curtains faded into near transparency. You do not move closer yet. You simply stand where the trees part, watching. The cabin does not announce itself. It does not call you forward. It waits. There is no smoke curling from the chimney, no creak of a door or flicker of candlelight. Yet it doesn't feel abandoned. It feels paused, as though the life within it has merely stepped outside for a moment and may return at any time. The forest around it is hushed, but not in fear, more like reverence. The trees lean slightly outward, as if making space. Ferns grow thick near the base of the cabin, and a narrow path of flattened earth leads to its door. The ground here is dappled with sunlight and shadow, and small white flowers bloom between stones at the threshold, blooming quietly without needing to be noticed. You take a step forward, then another, each one slow and deliberate. The air thickens slightly, not with heat, but with presence, as if the place itself is aware of your arrival. A slight breeze lifts, rustling the high branches, and the leaves shimmer faintly like wind chimes with no sound. Up close, the texture of the wood becomes clearer. Notched and grooved with time, the cabin's walls bear marks of seasons past and not here. A split there, small trails left by insects long gone. These are not imperfections. They are stories written without ink. The door is made of thick timber, its handle a simple iron loop dulled with age. The hinges are rusted slightly, but whole. There is no lock, only a sense that the door opens only when the forest allows it. You walk slowly around the side, where a window faces the clearing beyond. The glass is hazy, but you can just make out the outlines of what lies inside shelves, perhaps. And the curve of a chair back, the edge of a table caught in slanted light. Everything within seems still, waiting in soft dust and dim golden shade. You do not press your face to the glass or try the door. There is no need. The moment does not call for action, only presence. A small clearing surrounds the cabin, overgrown but not unruly. It feels like the kind of place where things grow only when and where they are meant to. Tall grasses sway, and a scattering of flat stones, half sunken in soil, form a loose ring not far from the cabin's porch. They may have once held purpose, but now they serve only to echo time's slow turning. You sit on one of the stones, letting your bag rest beside you. From here, you can see the cabin clearly, the slope of the roof, the softness of the walls, the shadowed porch where a single wooden chair leans slightly to one side. You imagine what the inside feels like. Cool air, the scent of wood and books, and something floral, dried herbs or lavender hanging from a beam. You close your eyes and breathe deeply. There is no need to enter. Not yet. There is a kind of magic in not knowing fully, in pausing at the threshold of something both old and kind. The cabin will wait. It has always waited. Not for answers, not for stories, but simply for those who notice it. A few leaves drift downward from a branch above, spiraling softly through the air before landing on the cabin's roof. They join the others without fuss. Another layer of time settling gently. A ray of sunlight moves slowly across the porch, warming the wooden step. A bird calls once from far away, and then all is quiet again. The forest breathes, the cabin rests. And you sit with it, part of the same stillness. You will go inside soon, but not just yet. For now, the first glimpse is enough. The sun has shifted slightly in the sky, casting longer shadows along the soft ground as you sit quietly outside the cabin. A gentle hush settles even deeper around you, like a soft blanket drawn across the shoulders of the forest. The trees seem to lean back now, as if allowing space for something old to stir once more. You rise slowly from the moss-covered stone and approach the cabin's weathered steps. They are shallow and worn smooth in the middle, as though shaped by many careful feet over many quiet years. The wood creaks under your weight, not loudly, just enough to acknowledge your presence. A single leaf lies curled on the porch, dry and paper-thin, lifting faintly in the breeze. You pause at the door. Its wood is thick and faded to a soft gray, marked by knots and whirls that resemble slow, swirling wind. The iron loop that serves as a handle is cool beneath your fingers, and you find yourself holding your breath for a moment, not in hesitation, but in reverence. You don't knock. You don't need to. You pull the door gently, and it gives without resistance. The hinges groan faintly, a soft exhalation like a sigh released after a long silence. The door opens inward with ease, as though it's been expecting your touch all along. Cool air greets you, carrying the scent of wood, old books, and something soft and earthy, perhaps dried sage, or simply the memory of rain on timber. The light inside is dim but golden. Dust floats through the air like tiny feathers, caught in beams of sunlight that slip in through the windows. It is not a grand space, just one room, perhaps two, but it feels full in the way a seashell does, echoing long-forgotten sounds and holding them with care. You step in without a sound, letting the door ease closed behind you. The floorboards are firm, but give slightly beneath your feet, as though responding to your weight. They creak gently with each step, not as complaint, but as greeting. The space feels paused rather than abandoned. Nothing is broken, nothing is missing. Only time has moved here, and it has done so softly. To your left is a small sitting area, a wooden chair with a curved back, its cushion faded, but intact, and beside it a low table covered in a thin layer of dust. A candle, long since used, sits in a small ceramic holder, its wick curled and blackened. The walls are lined with shelves, some filled with books, others with jars, feathers, pine cones, and tiny bundles of dried herbs tied with thread. Each item rests exactly where it belongs. In the far corner, a small wood-burning stove stands closed and still, a neat stack of firewood beside it. Above the stove, a shelf holds a row of polished stones and shells, as if someone long ago liked to keep pieces of the outside close at hand. A kettle sits quietly on the stove's surface, its handle wrapped in worn cloth. You make your way slowly, your eyes moving over each surface, each detail. There is no dust of neglect here, only the kind that gathers when things are left in peace. You run your fingers lightly along the edge of a shelf and find the wood smooth beneath the thin film of time. On one of the shelves sits a small clay pot filled with what appears to be dried lavender. Its scent is faint, but still lingers, calming and familiar. You pause before the window, looking out. The forest is still there, gentle, green, dappled. From this view, the meadow you crossed earlier is just visible through the trees, its grasses now glowing gold in the slanting afternoon light. The breeze moves the leaves outside, and their motion is mirrored in the gentle shift of lace curtains at the edge of the frame. You move to a second room, separated only by a short wall and a curtain drawn to one side. This space is even smaller, a narrow bed, tucked into the corner beneath the slanted ceiling, its quilt hand-stitched in soft blues and browns. A pair of boots rests neatly beneath the bed frame, their leather dulled by use but still whole. Above the bed, a wooden shelf holds a small oil lamp, unlit, and a book lying open, spine turned gently upward. You sit for a moment on the edge of the bed. The quilt is cool but soft beneath your fingers. There's a sense of pause here, as if whoever lived in this place simply stood up one afternoon, stepped out into the forest, and has not yet returned. But there's no feeling of loss. Only waiting, only stillness. Your gaze drifts to a dresser near the wall, its surface bare except for a single item, a delicate, round stone, perfectly smooth, resting on a folded cloth. You pick it up and feel its weight in your hand-cool, solid grounding. You set it gently back down where it was, as though placing a final note on a soft melody. You return to the main room and take a seat in the wooden chair. It creaks gently beneath you and then settles. Through the windows, the light continues its golden descent, brushing the shelves, the floor, the tops of the books. You close your eyes and listen. The house is quiet, but not silent. The wind brushes the walls outside. A bird calls, distant. Somewhere deep within the walls, a beam contracts softly, a subtle wooden sound that's more breath than voice. You feel the presence of the house around you, not watching, not speaking, just being, just holding the space open like a cupped hand around a flickering flame. The dust swirls once more in the late sun, and your breath slows. You do not need to do anything. You do not need to understand. All you have to do is sit and be, and let the cabin welcome you in its own quiet way. You open your eyes again and look once more around the room. Everything is still exactly where it should be. The light continues to shift inside the cabin as the afternoon lengthens. Soft golden rays filter through the dust-speckled windows, casting gentle patterns across the wooden floor. From where you sit in the old chair, everything feels touched by calm. No ticking clock marks time here. No urgency hums beneath the silence. It is the kind of stillness that asks for nothing but presence. You rise slowly and walk again through the room, your footsteps making the faintest creaks on the time-worn boards. Around you, the walls are lined with shelves. They are not arranged for display, nor in any particular order. The items they hold do not proclaim themselves. They simply exist resting, waiting, content to be what they are. One shelf holds books, their spines faded and soft at the edges, some leaning slightly against one another, as if in quiet conversation. Their titles are hard to read now, rubbed away by years and fingers. You run your hand along their backs, feeling the textures of cloth, leather, and paper. A few are open just slightly, as if last read on a rainy evening, then gently closed halfway and forgotten, though not unloved. Next to the books are small jars glass, some clear, some tinged with green or brown. Inside them are old herbs, dried leaves, bits of bark, or perhaps petals once gathered from the forest beyond. They are labeled with faded handwriting, some in words you don't quite recognize. Others are blank entirely, their contents left to time and guesswork. A jar of pine resin, a few dried blueberries, sprigs of lavender, and something that might be yarrow. None of it feels medicinal. It all feels ceremonial, like memories sealed in glass. On another shelf, a row of feathers leans carefully against the wall, each one different in color and size, gray, brown, speckled white. They are placed with care, tucked just slightly into a line of twine that runs across the wood like a miniature clothesline. You could almost imagine the hand that placed them there, one by one, over the course of quiet mornings or slow evenings by lantern light. A drawer sits below the shelves, half open, revealing small folded cloths, bits of string, a thimble, a few buttons in muted colors. Nothing valuable, yet everything held with care. These are the kinds of objects not collected for usefulness alone, but for familiarity, the way one might keep an old key long after forgetting what it opens, simply because it has lived in the hand. In the corner of one shelf, a candle stub sits in a chipped ceramic holder. It's been lit many times, the wax having dripped and cooled in slow rivers down its side. Around the base are tiny flecks of ash, and beside it, a box of matches nearly full, their tips untouched. You resist the impulse to strike one. The cabin does not ask for light right now. The sun still reaches inside with grace. You pause by a row of smooth stones set along the back edge of another shelf. They vary in shape, some round, some long, some flat. Their colors are soft, sand, slate, pearl gray. One has a hole through the center, perfectly round, as if worn by water over time. You pick it up and turn it in your hand, feeling the way it presses into your palm, like a thought long held and finally remembered. There are things here that speak without sound. A pressed flower inside a book, a folded paper tucked into the edge of a frame, a piece of driftwood set diagonally on a windowsill. All of it gives the impression of a life lived not loudly, but attentively. Someone once noticed small things. Someone once gave them places to rest. You find a wooden box with a hinged lid, its surface carved with swirling lines and simple leaf shapes. Inside are tiny treasures: a curled birch bark, a smooth bit of sea glass, a button shaped like a star. Objects without story, and yet full of it. You close the lid gently, careful not to disturb whatever memory the box is holding. Near the window, a shelf holds more books, but these are larger, perhaps field guides or journals. One has been left open, its pages yellowed, filled with sketches in soft pencil. Drawings of mushrooms, leaves, and stones, each one labeled with care. A few are unfinished, the pencil lines light, as though waiting to be filled in one day. You run your finger just above the page, not touching, only tracing the idea of the shapes. Below the shelves is a low bench, upon which rests a woolen shawl folded neatly, its edges slightly frayed. You sit there for a moment, holding the fabric in your hands. It smells faintly of cedar and something older, something worn by time. A comfort not meant for warmth alone, but for remembering. You rest in that stillness, surrounded by the quiet things. Each object seems to hold a presence, though none of them ask for your attention. They are not relics of a story waiting to be uncovered. They are simply pieces of a life once lived slowly, carefully, without explanation. The sun shifts again, casting a new glow across the shelves. Dust sparkles in its path, and for a brief moment, everything feels suspended. Not frozen, but held. You realize you haven't spoken since you arrived. Not aloud, not even in thought. There's nothing to say. You are simply here, as the cabin is here, as the shelves are here. Together, you all rest in this hour between time. You glance once more across the room. The candle, the books, the jars, and the feathers. They seem unchanged, yet something has deepened some thread of connection, now gently woven. You've been allowed to witness, to breathe alongside, and in doing so, you've become part of the quiet too. As you stand and step back from the shelves, your hand grazes the edge of a wooden bowl, carved from a single piece of dark wood. Inside are several acorns and a single curled leaf. You do not take them. You do not move them. They belong exactly where they are. You walk again to the center of the room, letting your gaze rest softly on each object one final time. The light begins to dim now, the sun leaning further west, brushing the tops of the trees outside. Evening is on its way, slow and kind. The shelves remain behind you, still and whole, holding what they've always held, the gentle weight of ordinary wonder. The afternoon sunlight begins to change, softening as it slips lower through the tall trees outside the cabin. Inside, it filters through dusty glass panes, spreading long golden ribbons across the wooden floor. The air feels warmer near the window, the dust dancing lazily in slow spirals, catching the light like shimmering snow. You sit by a low table tucked beneath the eastern window, where the light pools gently, golden and still. Everything in this part of the room rests in a kind of suspended breath. A teacup, a folded cloth, a spoon resting sideways. Time pauses here, just long enough for you to notice. You reach out and let your fingers trace the edge of the table. The wood is smooth with age, worn in quiet places by years of use. A layer of fine dust has settled across the surface, not heavy or grimy, but soft, like powdered memory. It collects on your fingertips in a faint, gray whisper. The dust here doesn't speak of abandonment. It speaks of patience, of things left just so, waiting without expectation. It feels as if nothing has moved in years, and yet nothing feels forgotten. In the corner of the table, something small catches your eye, a folded piece of paper tucked gently beneath a ceramic dish. You lift the dish with care, revealing the note beneath. Its edges are yellowed, the paper delicate and thin. You unfold it slowly, and it crackles faintly, like old leaves in autumn. Inside, there's only a single line of handwriting, soft, curved, and half faded by time. The words are barely legible, their meaning elusive, but their feeling is unmistakably gentle. A thought once meant for no one in particular. A whisper meant only to be seen, not read. You return the note to its place beneath the dish, your hand lingering for a moment. Beside the table, a shallow drawer slides open with a hushed sigh. Inside, you find the smallest things. A single button, round and blue, a short length of twine tied at both ends. A dried flower pressed so flat it's nearly transparent. These aren't things lost, they're things remembered. They don't tell a story directly. They are the remnants of small, tender moments, like the echo of laughter in an empty room, like the warmth left behind on a windowsill. You shift your weight and lean back, letting your gaze rise toward the slanted ceiling beams. In the highest corner, a spiderweb catches the afternoon light. It hangs delicately between the wood, silver-threaded and soft. The web isn't intrusive. It's quiet, like everything else in this place. It glimmers faintly, like lace pulled from another time. It, too, has simply been allowed to stay. No one cleared it away. No one needed to. Here, small things are allowed to be. Near the opposite wall stands a narrow cabinet with a glass-fronted door. You rise and walk to it slowly, your footsteps muffled by the wooden floor. Inside the cabinet are several tiny items, nothing valuable, but all clearly chosen. A carved wooden bird with chipped wings. A photograph in a frame too small to see clearly. A string of beads, dulled with time. You open the door carefully, the glass cool against your palm. The photograph shows two faint figures in front of a building that might be this cabin. Their faces are blurred, but their closeness says enough. Next to the photo, tucked behind a folded piece of cloth, you find a small metal key. Its edges are rusted just slightly, its shape simple. You lift it gently. It fits easily in your palm. You don't know what it opens, and perhaps it no longer opens anything at all. That isn't the point. The key is a quiet reminder that some mysteries are better left unopened, better left felt. You return it to its place and close the cabinet door. The glass hums softly as it seals shut, as if agreeing with your choice. You're about to turn when something low near the floor catches your eye. Just beneath a loose board lies a shallow groove in the wood. You kneel and run your fingers along the seam. The board shifts gently beneath your touch. Underneath, a small wooden box rests inside a hollow space, wrapped in a faded cloth. You lift it slowly. The lid slides open with a low whisper of wood against wood. Inside are the smallest treasures. A cracked compass, a pebble with a hole, a short pencil, and a folded paper star. No note. No explanation. Just presence. You hold the paper star in your palm for a moment. Its edges are soft from age. Its folds slightly undone. It doesn't need to unfold. It doesn't need to say anything. You imagine someone making it long ago, perhaps by candlelight, perhaps during rain. Not as a message, but simply as a way of being. You return it gently to the box, then slide the whole thing back into its quiet resting place. The floorboard settles again with a sound like a sigh. You leave it as you found it, untouched, but not unnoticed. You sit once more, this time near the cabinet, letting the stillness fold around you. The dust continues its drift in the beams of afternoon light, moving like breath. The cabin seems to exhale, and you do too. There is no rush to leave this quiet. The secrets here do not press themselves forward. They are content to remain half hidden, revealed only in passing moments, under golden light, behind soft wood and faded fabric. You begin to understand that discovery is not the goal here. The goal is simply to be present enough to notice. The room grows warmer in its silence. Outside the window, leaves rustle gently. A bird calls once, then goes still. The late light brushes across the shelves, the table, the worn floor. Shadows stretch slowly, and the air takes on that end-of-day feeling when the world quiets without asking permission. You close your eyes and feel the weight of this quiet. Not heavy, just full. Full of all the things that once were, and still are, just beneath the dust. You stay a little longer. You don't take anything. You don't move anything. Everything remains where it belongs. The note under the dish, the feather in the cabinet, the star in the box beneath the floor. These are not clues. They are not puzzles. They are simply small kindnesses left behind, pieces of a life that lived gently and asked for nothing in return. You rise slowly, one last glance over your shoulder, and the room welcomes your silence. The light shifts, the hush deepens, and the secrets remain quietly, beautifully kept. The wooden chair by the window seems to call you now, in its quiet way. You move toward it slowly, your steps soft against the floor, as though not to disturb the rhythm of the dust dancing in the sunlight. The chair is old, its wood polished smooth by the years. It creaks slightly as you settle in, not in protest, but in acknowledgement, like a gentle sigh. The cushion beneath you is faded but soft. From here, the view frames the forest like a painting. The trees shift gently in the breeze. The light hums with a warm, golden glow. You bring the kettle back to warmth on the small iron stove, adding a few more logs to keep the fire just low enough. The scent of warm cedar drifts into the room, mixing with the subtle sharpness of old pine and dried herbs. You choose a simple blend of dried flowers and leaves from a nearby jar, perhaps chamomile, perhaps something else that feels right. The water simmers gently. The steam rises slowly. No need for measurements. No hurry. The act of making tea here is as much ritual as refreshment, meant to fill the air as much as the cup. As you return to your seat, the warm mug resting gently in your hands, the room seems to settle even more. The wooden floor beneath your feet holds its own kind of warmth. Your back rests easily against the worn chair. You take a sip, feeling the heat travel slowly through your chest. Outside, the shadows stretch further across the mossy forest floor, and above them, the branches sway in long, unhurried arcs. The light flickers through the trees in patterns that have no beginning and no end, just a rhythm that continues. Softly, patiently, you let your gaze drift outward. There's no single thing to watch, and yet you could sit here for hours. A leaf trembles slightly before detaching, drifting slowly through the air. Far off, a bird flutters through the branches and lands without a sound. Everything outside moves with an effortlessness that invites your breath to slow. You become aware of how still you've become, how pleasant it is to do nothing but notice. Your breath rises and falls. Your hands cup warmth. The tea cools slowly in your lap. You are nowhere else but here. Time softens in this place. Minutes are hard to name. There is no schedule, no call forward, no hint of what comes next. Afternoon simply becomes itself long and golden and hushed. You watch the light as it drifts from one wall to another, creeping gently across the shelves, then sliding down the legs of the table. The warmth remains, but the angles change. The world turns outside, but inside this small room, you remain still. Like a stone in a slow-moving stream. Like a thought that chooses not to end. The mug in your hand is nearly empty, and you place it on the windowsill, the ceramic making a soft sound against the wood. The sound doesn't echo. It settles. The windowsill is lined with dust and tiny particles of pollen. A few dried pine needles caught in the corner. Even these small things feel meaningful somehow, like they belong to the same long breath the cabin has been taking for years. A moth rests on the glass, its wings still and speckled like the bark of a tree. It stays motionless, even as light passes over it. You close your eyes for a while. You don't fall asleep, not quite, but you drift into something soft and slow. Thoughts pass like clouds. You feel your body settle deeper into the chair. The air feels heavier now, not in weight, but in presence. As if it is filled with the memory of afternoons just like this, quiet, golden, and perfectly uneventful. There is no need for more. There never was. The hum of the stove is the only sound now, rising and falling like a lullaby for the walls. When you open your eyes again, the view has changed in some small way. The light has lowered. The forest looks more amber than green now. And yet, nothing feels lost. Everything here happens so slowly that each change is a soft unfolding. You stand and stretch gently, not from restlessness, but from gratitude. The floor beneath your feet still holds the memory of warmth. You walk to the shelf and place the used mug near the others, among a few jars and books. It will wait there until needed again, like everything else in this room. You move to the doorway, standing for a moment beneath the wooden frame. Outside, the forest carries on. The breeze picks up just enough to rustle the leaves into song. Somewhere out of sight, a stream continues its slow murmur. There is movement, but not motion. You let your hand rest against the doorway, feeling the smoothness of the wood where many hands must have touched before. No one speaks here. No one needs to. The forest, the wind, and the cabin itself do all the speaking. You step outside for a moment, letting the air touch your face. It is cooler now, but still gentle. The scent of pine rises to meet you, mingling with something faintly floral carried on the breeze. You take a deep breath and look toward the canopy above, watching the way the light slants through the branches. Even in movement, the world here feels still. Even in stillness, the world feels alive. You stay like that for a long moment, breathing in the hush of a forest that doesn't mind being watched. Then, slowly, you return to the chair. You sink into its shape as if it remembers you. Outside, the light continues to fade. Shadows stretch further. The colors deepen into gold and soft blue. You rest your arms on the windowsill and watch the woods grow quiet again. The world dims, not in sadness, but in peace. Everything that needed to happen has happened. Nothing urgent remains. The afternoon draws to a close in a single long exhale, and you breathe with it. Inside the cabin, all is still once more. The shelves rest in their silence. The table waits with grace. The books remain unopened, but not unread. The tea has cooled, the dust has settled, and the window holds the last of the day's light like a lantern before sleep. You lean back in the chair, your breath slow, your heart quiet. You've done nothing. And somehow it has been everything. Outside, the sky begins its soft retreat into dusk, and the forest, in its infinite stillness, waits with you. There is something about the quiet of the cabin now that draws your attention toward the shelves again. The light has grown softer, filtered through the settling dusk, and it brushes against the spines of the books like a memory. You rise slowly from the chair, letting your limbs stretch, and wander toward the tall wooden bookcase standing against the far wall. Dust hangs lightly in the air, and the faint scent of old paper greets you as you draw close. Some of the books lean at odd angles, some rest flat, others stand tall and proud, each one holding its own silent story. You run your hand along the spines, the titles faded in places, the lettering worn from age. Some are printed clearly, manuals on herbs, maps of woodland trails, notes on weather patterns. Others are unmarked, the covers blank or simply worn to wood-colored cloth. One book in particular seems to wait for your touch. Its cover is soft with age, the corners rounded, the fabric worn. You ease it gently from the shelf. It opens without resistance, its pages unfolding like petals, long kept in the dark, now reaching once more for the light. Inside, the handwriting is careful and sloping, the ink faded to a soft brown. There is no title, no date, just a single page at the beginning with a few words. To remember the quiet things. You smile softly, then continue turning the pages. The entries are not long. They are fragments, sketches of thought. Some describe the weather on certain days, drizzles in spring, frost in autumn. Others mention tea blends, what flowers were blooming, or where the sunlight fell in the garden. Each page feels like a small breath captured on paper, a life observed with care and quiet joy. One entry catches your attention. Today, the wind sounded like the sea through the pines. You pause, letting that image take root. You can almost hear it yourself, the wind threading between branches, sighing through the needles, whispering like distant waves. Another page describes the ritual of lighting a lantern at dusk. The glow softens the corners of things, it says. Even the day seems to settle down with the flame. It's not just a journal. It's a companion to stillness, written not to record, but to remember how it felt to be fully present in small, forgotten hours. Some pages are marked with delicate stains, tea, perhaps, or petals that once rested between them. A few corners are dog-eared. One page ends mid-sentence, as though the writer had paused to watch something outside the window and never returned to finish the thought. You don't feel the absence as an interruption. It's as though the pause itself is part of the message. That it's okay to leave a moment open, to let it hang in the quiet like a single note of music echoing through a still room. You close the book for a moment, resting your hand on its cover. The cabin around you holds that same energy unfinished in the most peaceful way. It's a place where things are left mid-thought, not from neglect, but because they've already said enough. You open the book again, not to read now, but just to feel the paper between your fingers. Each page, each word, seems to breathe. You don't know the writer's name, and it doesn't matter. What matters is how clearly you can feel their presence in this quiet space. Tucked between the pages is a small drawing, sketched in soft pencil. A tree, tall and thin, bending slightly to one side. Beneath it, a bench. On the bench, just a few gentle lines to suggest a figure sitting still. There's no face, no detail, only a posture, shoulders at ease, back resting, arms folded calmly. You trace the lines lightly with your finger. The drawing isn't meant to impress. It's meant to remind. You place the drawing back between the pages and return to the entry it rested in. The bench was warm in the sun today. Sat there longer than I meant to. You turn a few more pages, finding more fragments that echo through your mind like distant bells. The rain softened everything today, even my thoughts. Another, tea and bread, candlelight, no need for more. These small moments, documented with care, feel like gentle echoes of your own time in the cabin. As if the writer once walked the same rooms, sat in the same chair, listened to the same hush settling over the woods. You begin to wonder if every visitor here has left something behind, not for discovery, but for companionship. You return the journal to its place on the shelf, letting it lean gently back into its spot between two other quiet books. The room feels different now, not louder, but fuller, as though the words had been lifted gently into the air and now rest, unseen in the beams above you, in the corners where dust collects, in the still places between each sound. You step back from the shelf, your eyes lingering a moment longer on the spot where the book rests, then return slowly to the window chair. The light outside has deepened. The blue of evening begins to thread its way through the branches, softening the golds and greens. You sit again, the cushioned familiar beneath you, and take a long, slow breath. Everything inside the cabin feels more connected now. The shelves, the books, the tea mug still resting near the sill. The silence hums like a low chord, constant and grounding. You lean your head back and close your eyes, letting the memory of pages left open drift gently through your thoughts. As you sit, the final light of day slides across the floor, and the cabin embraces it fully. Nothing demands attention. Nothing needs to be resolved. The entries in the book continue in your mind, unfinished lines that feel more like invitations than endings. And here, in this still hour between day and dusk, you realize that all of it, the open pages, the drifting dust, the soundless woods, is exactly enough. Evening arrives not with haste, but with a quieting of sound. The forest outside the cabin has grown stiller, the birds having offered their final songs for the day. A cooler hush settles across the windowsill, brushing against your skin with the gentleness of worn linen. Inside, the last slants of sunlight have withdrawn into the high corners of the room, leaving everything bathed in softening shadow. You feel no urgency to move, and yet something within you shifts, some part of the body that knows, almost instinctively, that dusk invites light, not from the sky, but from the flame. You rise slowly from your chair, the floor cool beneath your feet, and walk toward a small shelf in the far corner of the cabin. There sits an old lantern, its metal worn smooth with age, its glass clouded ever so slightly. It has been waiting. You lift it carefully, the weight of it familiar and grounded. A small tin of oil rests nearby, along with a box of wooden matches wrapped in string. The motions come easily, as if remembered from another life, filling the base, trimming the wick, striking the match with a soft, short hiss. The flame flickers into life with a golden tremble. For a moment, it dances high, then settles into a steady glow, casting warm circles of light across the wooden floor. You carry the lantern to the center of the room, placing it gently on the table. Its glow spills outward, brushing the walls with amber softness. The shelves lean into the light, the edges of old books and jars glowing gently, their details coming alive. Shadows move slowly now, no longer sharp, but softened into rounded shapes that stretch and settle like memories. You sit once more, this time closer to the lantern. Its warmth is not heat, but presence. You watch the flame behind the glass as it sways in the rhythm of the room. Every so often, a small breeze stirs through the gaps in the window frame, and the light responds, not with flicker, but with grace. The shadows it casts seem to breathe, stretching long across the floor, curving gently up the walls. The room becomes a quiet world of gold and sepia. Time continues, but its hands no longer move forward. They rest, open and unhurried. From your seat, you look toward the window. Outside, the trees are silhouetted now, deepening into ink blue. The forest holds its own kind of stillness, no longer illuminated, but listening. A branch creaks. A leaf falls. The sky shifts from twilight to the soft, velvety blue of approaching night. The lantern becomes your small hearth, its glow a kind of shelter within the cabin. You find yourself breathing with its rhythm, slow, even, present. The day has completed its arc, and the night does not demand anything more than your attention. You lean back in your chair, your hands resting quietly in your lap. The ceiling beams above catch the light in soft bands. Even the dust particles seem to float more slowly, drifting in and out of the lantern's reach. Somewhere near the shelves, a small clock ticks faintly, though its hands have long stopped turning. The ticking is not timekeeping. It's just sound one more hush among many. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to listen. The lantern crackles faintly, a breath of flame shifting inside a memory of silence. You rise once more and carry the lantern to another room, a smaller one tucked behind a curtain of linen. Inside is a simple bed, neatly made, the blanket folded just so. A small stool rests beside it, a place for the lantern to sit. You place it there, and the room fills with a gentler light, as if it has been softened by fabric and quiet. The bed looks untouched, but not unloved. You sit for a moment at its edge. The light pools across the blanket in slow waves, like morning remembered in reverse. After a time, you return the lantern to the main room, leaving the bedroom undisturbed. The shadows on the walls are longer now. The flame continues, unwavering. You sit beside it again, feeling its presence wrap around your shoulders like a shawl. It doesn't speak, this flame. It doesn't reveal or explain, it simply stays. And in its staying, it comforts. The world beyond the cabin grows darker still, and the forest begins its long, slow breath through the night. Here, the only story left is the one you feel without words. This room, this flame, this quiet heart. You think of the many evenings this room must have known. The journal entries, the drawings, the tea. The quiet rituals that repeat themselves without needing change. Perhaps this lantern has been lit hundreds of times, each evening welcoming its own hush, its own slow retreat into the gentle dark. The wood of the table reflects the light back, a steady golden pool in the center of the room. It feels not like a place that holds light, but a place that knows it. That has learned the language of stillness through seasons and silence and patience. And so you stay. You let the flame keep company with your thoughts. Nothing else needs to happen. The lantern's glow is enough. Outside, the night continues to deepen. Inside, the hush settles completely. The light bends around your fingers, rests in the hollows of old books, softens the seams of memory. It doesn't ask you to remember. It only asks you to sit quietly with it and let the moment be. You do. You breathe. You rest. The flame sways once and returns to stillness. The lantern glows, and the cabin listens. Night has now fully arrived, though it crept in so softly you hardly noticed the transition. The light from the lantern remains steady, golden and low, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. Outside, the world has folded into darkness. Not heavy or sharp, but velvety and forgiving. You move toward the window once again, drawn not by sight, but by sound. The quiet is no longer empty. It holds a delicate music, the subtle chorus of a forest that does not sleep, but rests in its own quiet way. You lean your arms on the sill, the wood cool beneath your skin. The pane of glass feels almost alive with the faint chill of night. From beyond the trees comes the softest flutter of wings, an owl passing overhead, unseen but deeply felt. There's a rustle in the undergrowth, likely a fox or some other gentle creature moving through leaves. The trees whisper now, their branches shifting against each other in a kind of language only the night understands. These aren't sounds that startle, they soothe. They remind you that the world continues, even when unseen. Somewhere near the edge of the forest, water trickles over stone, the same stream you crossed hours ago. Its sound is slow and steady, like time relaxing into itself. A single leaf lands on the roof above with a soft tap. Then silence returns, but not the kind that presses against your ears. This is the quiet that holds you, that drapes itself across your shoulders and invites you to be still with it. You find your breath slowing once more, your heartbeat sinking. Deeper into the rhythm of night dot inside, the lantern continues its small, steady glow. The shadows on the walls have softened to blurs, no longer reaching but resting. You walk softly across the floor, your footfalls muted by the wood's familiar creak. In the center of the room, everything waits unchanged and unhurried. The table with its cup, the shelves filled with dust and time, the old coat still hanging. Near the door, you sit again, not because you are tired, but because the room seems to ask it of you. To pause, to stay a little longer with the hush dot. The cabin's walls seem thinner now, not in strength, but in spirit, as if they allow the sounds of the forest to pass through gently, like water through linen. The night outside and the warmth within feel joined by breath. A small breeze drifts in through a gap near the window, and with it comes the faint scent of damp moss and fallen pine. It weaves through the room like smoke, winding between chair legs and table corners, touching everything, without claiming it. The room is no longer simply a place. It's become a vessel for night's quiet song. You close your eyes, listening more fully. A distant owl calls again, low and steady, its sound neither haunting nor sharp, but almost ancient. A lullaby from the trees. Then the occasional tap of something falling, a seed, a twig, the whisper of something brushing against the cabin's walls. The sounds are not loud. They do not ask you to respond. They only exist in their own rhythm, their own hush. In this forested world, there are no clocks to tick loudly, no voices to rise. Only the careful, comforting rustle of breath in branch and breeze. Your hand finds its way to the blanket draped across the arm of the chair. You pull it slowly over your knees, its texture soft and slightly warm, as though it has known many quiet evenings just like this one. The warmth it offers is subtle, more of a gesture than a heat. You sit wrapped in the stillness, the lantern's light painting soft arcs across the ceiling. Your thoughts, like the wind in the trees, drift gently untethered, slow content. There is no story to resolve here, no conclusion to find. Just this, presence and breath dot at the edge of hearing. The forest continues to murmur. You begin to notice smaller, finer sounds, the slight stretch of cooling wood, the hush of a moth's wings against the window pane, the shift of leaves stirred by nothing more than memory. These quiet details are not interruptions. They are threads in a great, slow tapestry of dusk. In this cabin, with its worn corners and old comforts, you are both witness and participant. You are not separate from the hush. You are part of it. And in this belonging, you find yourself more grounded than you felt in days. Eventually, your gaze settles once more on the lantern. Its light is lower now, though still steady. You think of all the nights this little flame has glowed through. Rains through winters, through times when no one sat nearby to see it. A patient keeper of softness. Its light is not meant to illuminate everything, only to hold a small space in the dark where rest can unfold. You watch the flame flicker slightly, and then still again. Even it seems to be listening to the forest's gentle music. Even it seems to wait, and you wait with it. Not for anything in particular, but for the next breath, the next quiet sound, the next slow minute to pass like a leaf on a breeze. The forest hums on. The cabin holds you. The night deepens not in shadow, but in comfort. And as you rest there, body still, mind loosened, you understand that this hour is not about sleep itself, but the path toward it. A path made of rustling branches, soft wing beats, and the small, faithful glow of a lantern that never hurries. The hush outside becomes the hush within. Morning comes slowly, almost imperceptibly, not with fanfare or sudden brightness, but with the most delicate easing of darkness. You wake gently, unsure of when you drifted to sleep. There is no clock to mark the hour, only the faint blue light, creeping through the window and the softest bird song filtering through the walls. The lantern has gone out sometime in the night, its glass cool to the touch, the wick barely curled in sleep. You sit up slowly, letting the blanket slip from your shoulders, and stretch as the hush of early morning greets you like a well-worn shawl. You open the cabin door with care, and the morning air spills in like a quiet guest. It's cool, fresh, and slightly sweet, carrying with it the scent of pine needles, damp earth, and the green hush of undergrowth still waking. A soft mist rests between the trees, not thick, but just enough to blur the edges of things. The forest, so alive with whispers in the night, now seems held in a suspended breath. You step outside, your boots brushing against fallen needles, and pause for a moment to take in the softened world. No rush, no noise, just morning. Turning toward the back of the cabin, you notice something beyond the window's reach, a small path veering off to the side, where a break in the trees reveals a different kind of space. It isn't a clearing exactly, nor a yard. It's something older, less maintained. A garden, or what remains of one. You walk toward it slowly, drawn not by curiosity, but by the softness of it. The path is overgrown, yet not unwelcoming. Ferns lean gently inward. Wild grasses sway under your steps. Even the weeds seem relaxed, unbothered by the passage of time. As you reach the edge of the garden, the landscape opens up just enough to let light touch it fully. The mist here begins to lift. You see the outline of what once might have been. Garden beds, bordered by crumbling stones, their lines crooked and moss-covered. Lavender, long untrimmed, leans lazily toward the earth. A few forget-me-nots peek from behind wild thyme. Taller stalks of goldenrod and Queen Anne's lace wave gently in the breeze, as though greeting an old friend. There is no design left, no symmetry, but it doesn't feel neglected. It feels peaceful, as though the garden chose this form of rest. A wooden swing hangs from a thick tree limb nearby, the paint on its seat faded to a ghost of blue. It sways slightly in the breeze, creaking just once. You approach it slowly, brushing your hand along its edge. The wood is smooth, warmed by many seasons and many still moments. You sit for a moment, letting your weight settle into it. The swing doesn't lift off the ground. It just moves a little from side to side, as if remembering what it felt like. to fly. You let it carry you gently, your eyes drifting toward the leaves above. The tree branches overhead are layered with early light, their edges glowing faintly gold. Birds hop between them, calling to one another in delicate notes. There's no chorus, just a scattering of sound-like beads dropped on a soft cloth. Somewhere near the edge of the garden, a squirrel scampers through the underbrush, pausing now and then to inspect the world with quiet care. The garden doesn't mind your presence. It seems to absorb it, welcoming you in the same way it has embraced moss and root and thyme. You feel yourself relaxing again, more deeply than before. After a while, you rise from the swing and walk slowly through the garden beds. Your fingers brush along the tops of the grasses and wildflowers. Some of the plants are familiar. Others feel like names once known and long forgotten. A rusted watering can lies half-tipped near the base of a tree, now filled with rainwater and floating petals. You kneel beside it, trailing your hand through the cool surface. The water reflects the pale sky, your fingers, and the hint of a dragonfly hovering just beyond reach. Even in stillness, the garden moves in small, beautiful ways. In one corner, you notice what remains of a bench stone slabs, softened by age, half covered in ivy. You sit again, letting the chill of stone seep gently through your clothes. From here, you see more clearly the entire space, the way the light drapes across the leaves, the broken lines of what once might have been a path, the soft disorder that time has laid down like a blanket. This is not a forgotten place. It's a remembered one, not preserved, but embraced. The garden, like the cabin, has continued to exist in the quiet company of wind and season. The sun has risen a little higher now, though it's still low enough to cast long shadows. The mist has almost entirely lifted, leaving the world clearer, though not louder. A butterfly moves lazily from flower to flower, unhurried in its mourning. You take one last breath of the air, cool and filled with scent-green, floral, and faintly earthy. There is something sacred in the way this garden greets the day, not with a performance, but with a bow, a nod to what has been and what is yet to come, a still life unfolding at the speed of breath. You begin to make your way back toward the cabin, walking slowly, letting the garden retreat behind you without farewell. Nothing here asks to be remembered, and yet it stays with you. In the hush of petal on stone, in the swing's single creak, in the way morning light touches the rim of a forgotten can, you step once more onto the cabin's back porch, the wood warm beneath your feet now. Behind you, the garden continues its slow conversation with the wind. Ahead of you, the cabin waits in golden silence. You step inside, carrying the stillness with you. The air changes before the rain comes. It's not a sudden shift, but a slow turning, like a page in a quiet book. Clouds gather with a hush, drifting in low and soft across the tops of trees. The light becomes muted, as though someone has pulled a sheer curtain over the sun. You stand near the cabin window, watching the way the forest holds its breath. Leaves barely stir, and the birdsong, once scattered through the morning, falls into silence. The world is not tense, only waiting. Even the old swing in the garden has stilled, its motion paused in mid-thought. Then, with no rush, the first drop falls. It taps gently against the window pane, barely more than a whisper. Another follows, then another. Soon the roof begins to echo with the rhythm of the rain, a sound so soft, and even that it feels like a lullaby meant only for you. You stay by the window for a while longer, watching the garden outside become speckled with darkened soil. Flowers bow slightly, their petals holding beads of water like tiny lanterns. There is no storm, only a steady, cleansing rain that brings everything closer to the earth. You move away from the window and cross the wooden floor with slow, measured steps. The soft creaking beneath your feet matches the tempo of the falling rain. In the corner of the cabin waits a chair, the reading chair you've come to call it. It's simple and worn, the fabric slightly faded, but inviting in the way only old things can be. A folded blanket rests across one arm, and beside it a low table with a stack of books, their spines weathered, their pages loose with age. You sit down slowly, letting the chair receive your weight with a sigh. You pull the blanket over your lap and reach for one of the books. The pages open easily, as if they have been read many times and are always ready to be read again. The words are gentle, the kind that drift rather than push. You don't follow a story, not really. You let your eyes move across sentences like your hand might glide through water. It's enough to hold the book, to let your fingers trace the edges of the pages while the sound of rain thickens outside. A branch taps the roof above, not in alarm, but as if to join in. The warmth of the blanket settles into your knees. The rain continues, its rhythm now more certain, more complete. The cabin becomes smaller, not in space, but in focus. You feel yourself drawn inward, to the soft flicker of the lantern nearby, the curve of the chair, the smell of paper and old pine wood. The book rests gently in your hands. You read slowly, stopping often, not because you're distracted, but because there's no need to hurry. Every sentence is like a stepping stone across a wide, quiet stream. You can pause, breathe, and step. Again when you're ready. Outside, the forest wears its new color well. The green has deepened with the rain, the trunks of trees darkened like ink on wet paper. Drops slide from branch to branch, stitching the canopy with silver threads. You close the book for a moment and listen. There's a distant trickle where the garden path curves, perhaps the rainwater collecting in a dip of stone. Closer, water runs down the side of the cabin in thin, glistening lines. A low hum rises from the earth itself, as though the roots beneath your feet are drinking slowly, patiently, with gratitude. You take a sip of tea, the cup warmed once again by the small stove. The flavor is soft and earthy, with a hint of wild mint. The warmth travels down your throat, meeting the comfort already held in your chest. You place the cup back down on the wooden table with care. There is a small crack in the surface, a line that has existed long before your arrival and will remain long after. Somehow, that thought brings peace. Nothing in this place demands permanence. It welcomes presence, quiet, thoughtful presence, and gives back silence in return. From the reading chair, your eyes wander around the cabin once more. The light from the lantern creates reflections in the window, overlaying the view of the rainy world with the glow of the room. Inside and outside merge for a moment, a collage of wet leaves and warm flame. You feel as though you're seated inside a painting, one without edges or frames. Everything moves gently here. The rain, the shadows, even your thoughts seem to slow and drift, no longer needing direction, just motion, just soft loops of memory and breath. The pages of the book flutter slightly, stirred by a breeze you hadn't noticed. You hold the cover closed for a moment and rest it against your chest. You're not sleepy exactly, but you are folded into the moment. The rhythm of rain has woven itself into the fabric of the afternoon. Somewhere nearby, the sound of a bird chirps a single note, brief, like a thought just before dreaming. The chair holds you, the blanket warms you, and the hush of water against wood creates a world that feels endless. Though contained in the smallest of hours, you don't need to read more. Not now. The words have done their work, and the rain will carry you the rest of the way. You lean your head back, eyes open just enough to see the lantern's glow above you. The sound of the storm is not storm at all. It's comfort, softness. A long, slow song with no beginning or end. You listen. You breathe. And in this moment, book unopened, Tea cooling, chair embracing, you let yourself rest. The rain outside continues, timeless and kind. And inside, everything is still. The rain has passed by the time you rise again. It left behind a softened world muted in color, yet glistening in texture. You step across the wooden floor, the boards now cool beneath your feet, and the scent of rain-soaked pine lingers through. The cabin. Outside, the forest is still damp, but calm, like a book left open beside a sleeping reader. You move with that same gentleness now, not out of caution, but in harmony with the stillness around you. Somewhere in the corner of the room, your eyes fall again on the low wooden desk. It waits there, patient and quiet, with its narrow drawers. Tucked beneath the surface, you've walked past the desk before, more than once, but only now do you pause beside it. Your hand runs slowly across the top grain worn smooth, the polish long faded, but honest in its age. The smallest drawer sits slightly ajar, as though left that way long ago, waiting for someone to notice. With a soft pull, it glides open. Inside, a careful disorder greets you. Bundles of yellowed paper, edges curled, some tied with string, some folded in ways that suggest frequent unfolding. The smell of old ink and dust rises like a sigh from within. You lift one of the papers gently into the light. It crackles faintly in your hands. Unfolding it reveals a map, not of any place you recognize, but of somewhere imagined, or perhaps long forgotten. The lines are drawn by hand, rivers meandering across the page, trees marked by tiny loops, and trails stitched between landmarks with dotted paths. There are no titles, no compass rose, no scale-only sketches, shapes, and a name in cursive at the bottom, almost faded to nothing. You trace the lines with your fingertip, as though your touch might reawaken whatever path once lay beneath. Them, more maps wait within the drawer. Some are small, barely larger than a postcard. Others stretch wide, folded many times over, with layers of forest, valley, and hills inked in soft brown and green. There's a pattern to them, not in geography, but in sentiment. They're not meant to direct. They're meant to remember. You see notations in the margins, simple things like the old tree, or where the light breaks through, scribbled in the corners by a steady hand. Each map seems to hold a fragment of a journey taken alone, or with someone no longer near, their presence now held in paper. You sit down slowly on the small wooden stool beside the desk. One by one, you spread the maps across the surface, like puzzle pieces that don't need solving. The room grows quiet around you again, though not with emptiness. There is the gentle whisper of your breath, the occasional creak of wood shifting and far off, the call of a bird echoing faintly through. Wet branches. Outside, the sky remains overcast, casting a soft, silver light through the window. You sit in that glow, surrounded by the cartography of memory and imagination, letting your eyes travel paths that no longer require footsteps. One map in particular holds your attention. It's older, with its edges nearly worn away. A red line winds across it, not straight, but with an elegant meander, pausing at little sketches: a tea kettle, a treehouse, a bench overlooking a hill. Someone cared for these details, not to get from one place to another, but to mark the moments between. You imagine a person, perhaps the one who once sat where you now sit, carefully adding each memory with ink and time. You hold the map closer, and for a moment you almost hear their footsteps beside yours. The drawer holds other items too. A compass, no longer quite aligned, rests beside a small cloth pouch filled with pressed flowers. Delicate things, their colors muted, but still intact. A pencil worn down to half its length. A stone smooth and oval, its surface marked with a G. Hand-drawn star. These are not tools of travel in the traditional sense. They are artifacts of wandering, of pausing often, of seeing more than reaching. You tuck the items back with care, not to forget them, but to honor the quiet they bring. Each piece holds a whisper of the world that once was. You return the maps to their drawer, folding each one as gently as the wind folds the leaves. The drawer slides closed with a faint click. Nothing is disturbed. Nothing demands to be taken. Everything waits, quietly held in its small space of wood and paper and dust. You stand again, letting the stillness of the desk settle behind you. There is no need to take the maps with you. Their paths have already found their way into your breath, your thoughts, your footsteps. You carry them now, not in your hands, but in the hush that follows you. The room feels warmer, though no fire burns. It's the warmth of being surrounded by time that has passed without urgency. You walk to the door once more and look outside. The garden glistens faintly under the gray sky, and the path beyond it still curves through the trees, unchanged. The world invites you to wander again, not far, but slowly. You feel the weightless gift of that drawer, tucked gently into your chest. There's a new softness in your steps now, as if moss had grown beneath your feet. The trail calls, but not with urgency. Only with welcome Dot, you step into the damp air, and the door closes quietly behind you. The cabin holds the maps, and you hold their memory. The forest stretches before you, as it always has, and the trees sway gently above. Somewhere deep in the woods, maybe the red line still exists, the old kettle, the treehouse, the quiet bench. Maybe not, but it doesn't matter. The maps are not meant for arrival. They are invitations to linger, to wonder, to notice. And as you return to the path, the hush returns with you, patient and wide, like the sky after rain. Evening arrives without warning. It doesn't fall or fade, but simply appears, like a soft blanket pulled over the day. The colors outside grow cooler, mossy greens deepen, and the light turns a quiet silver. The shadows lengthen, curling along the floor of the cabin in slow, thoughtful shapes. You step inside again, brushing a few fallen leaves from your shoulder, and the door closes with its familiar hush. The air within feels warmer now, though no fire burns. Just the memory of one, perhaps still lingering in the wood. You move slowly, as though your movements might disturb the stillness that has settled into every corner of this gentle space. You reach the shelf near the back wall, where a small collection of candles rests in a clay dish, some short and nearly spent, others tall and unused, their wax soft and fragrant with time. You choose one, a medium-sized candle in a glass jar, and place it gently on the small table by the window. The matchbox rests beside it, waiting patiently. When you strike the match, it flares for a moment, and then the wick takes the flame. The glow is modest at first, then steady, casting amber halos across the tabletop and the wood-paneled walls. As shadows shift, not away, but closer, as if to sit beside the light, the candle's scent is faint, something earthy and warm, like pressed herbs or sun-dried linen. You lean back into the old wooden chair near the table, watching the flame. It flickers gently, but holds steady, as if it knows its task is not to dazzle, but to soothe. On the far wall hangs an old clock, its face slightly tilted, hands frozen at a time you cannot name. Perhaps it stopped long ago, or perhaps it simply decided that time was no longer necessary here. The room feels no emptier for it. In fact, the silence seems fuller somehow, freed from the ticking that once tried to measure it. You let your gaze settle on the unmoving hands of the clock. One points toward where the number 3 might once have been. The other rests just above 6. Together they form a gentle angle, like arms in a quiet embrace. There is no pressure to correct it, no impulse to wind it. The clock has given up. Time and the room has followed. You breathe slowly in and out, and the candle flickers in rhythm, as if echoing your breath. Around you, the world holds still in a way that feels almost sacred. It isn't the absence of motion, it's the presence of calm. You rise to your feet, the floor cooled beneath you again, and walk to the small cabinet near the bookshelf. A drawer slides open with a whisper, revealing several more candles, some nestled in old tins, others in shallow bowls with wide wicks. You choose one more, lavender-colored and smooth, and set it near the first. Another match, another breath, and the flame catches. Now the cabin is ringed in a soft perimeter of gold. Not bright enough to read by, but just enough to see the outlines of the room. The books leaning into one another on the shelf, the empty teacup by the window, the blanket folded with care over the back of the chair. The scent of lavender blends with the earlier herbs, making the air feel like it's thickened slightly, not in weight, but in comfort. You sit again, your eyes drawn now not to the candle itself, but to the light it spills. It catches on the curves of the glass, the rim of a nearby jar, and the surface of a quiet clock. The shadows on the ceiling dance slowly, like thoughts that no longer require solving. Somewhere outside, an owl calls once, then falls silent again. It's enough to remind you that the night has arrived fully, though gently, wrapping the cabin like a cloak. The books remain unread, though their presence is felt. You run your fingers along the spine of one, feeling the texture of old linen binding. You don't open it. There's no need for stories when you are already living inside one. You return to the chair and drape the blanket over your legs. The flames continue their slow rhythm, rising and falling like quiet breaths. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to feel more deeply. In the darkness behind your eyelids, the light of the room becomes a soft pulse. Time continues not forward, but inward. You think again of the clock. How lovely it is, you realize, that something so designed for precision has found rest in stillness. Its hands are no longer pushing forward, no longer demanding the next thing. They simply exist now, part of the furniture, part of the hush. The longer you sit, the more you sense that time itself has grown drowsy. Moments no longer measure themselves. They stretch, blend, and fold like linen sheets in warm hands. You smile faintly, without knowing why, and the candlelight catches the curve of your cheek, like a brushstroke on canvas. Somewhere in the room, wax begins to pool at the base of the candle. It gathers slowly, steadily, with the kind of patience that invites you to mirror it. The flame lowers just slightly, but remains unbroken. The lavender scent has deepened now, mingled with a faint trace of something smoky, like cedar or autumn leaves. You remain seated, still wrapped in quiet. You are not waiting. You are simply here. The candle, the clock, the hush, they ask nothing of you but presence. And so you offer it, not as a duty, but as a gift given back to the evening. You reach once more for the matchbox, not to light a new candle, but to gently close its lid. The last flame sways slightly, then steadies. Outside, the trees murmur against the cabin walls, their voices soft and old. You lean your head against the back of the chair, feeling its curve hold you like the arms of something older than memory. The clock remains still, the candles remain lit, and the night folds in more deeply, like a lullaby without words, composed of light and time and breath. No need to mark it, no need to move forward. Here in the glow, everything is already enough. The morning begins without a sound. No sharp light, no bird song to announce it, only the slow unfurling of soft gray over the forest, like a long exhale after a deep sleep. Inside the cabin, the candles have long gone out, their wax cooled and settled into gentle shapes. The clock on the wall remains still, the hands unchanged. You rise quietly, folding the blanket you used the night before, smoothing its corners without hurry. The air carries the faintest chill, not unpleasant, only enough to wake the senses slowly. Through the window, you see the trees blurred with mist, as if the forest has forgotten its outlines for a while. You brew one last cup of tea, the leaves swirling gently in the warm water. The ritual feels familiar now, a movement shaped not by habit but by care. You cradle the cup between your palms and sit once more by the window, letting your eyes follow the soft drift of fog among the trees. Every branch seems quieter than before, every fern tucked in place. You sip slowly, feeling the warmth fill your chest, and you listen to the silence. It is a good silence, full and round, like a thought with no need for words. The decision to leave does not arrive all at once. It is not a push or a call, just a gentle knowing. A sense that the time within the cabin has settled, like snow after a long fall. There is nothing urging you out, no ticking clock, no voice from outside, but something within you begins to rise. Not in haste, but in harmony with the stillness around you. You gather nothing. There is nothing to take. What needed to be carried has already woven itself into your breath, your memory, your bones. The maps in the drawer, the unread pages, the silence, they walk with you now. You step outside, pausing at the threshold. The door closes softly behind you, not as an ending, but as a pause between chapters. The path ahead is faint at first, just a shimmer in the moss, but your feet know where to go. The forest greets you not with sound, but with presence. The trees lean gently toward one another, holding pockets of mist between their branches. Leaves glisten with morning damp. A bird flutters above, but does not sing. Everything feels like it has just awakened, and you are a quiet guest. Treading lightly across the memory of rain dot, your steps follow the curve of the path, and with each one, the cabin becomes a little more distant, not forgotten, just folded back into the trees. You don't look over your shoulder. There is no need. It will remain where it is, held in the stillness of the forest, waiting for the next moment of return. The quiet is different. Now, not the silence of inside walls, but the hush of open earth. You walk through it like moving through soft water, your breath slow, your thoughts fewer. The forest does not ask you questions. It walks beside you without needing answers. You pause beneath a tall pine, its branches sheltering a ring of stones and wild grasses. The light has changed again, shifting from gray to the gentlest gold. The fog lifts little by little, revealing the details of bark and fallen leaves, and a delicate web of moss that threads between tree roots. You crouch to run your fingers across the damp ground, and the earth gives softly beneath your touch. A single acorn sits nearby, perfectly still, and you watch it for a moment before rising again. The forest is filled with things left exactly where they were meant to be. The path continues, winding through ferns and under arching boughs, occasionally vanishing, only to reappear just ahead. It's not a road to follow, it's a suggestion. A breath, a story that you are slowly remembering. You find a fallen log and sit for a while, feeling the damp wood against your palms, the scent of lichen and bark drifting upward. A patch of sunlight finds you there, breaking through the canopy with warmth that touches the side of your face. You close your eyes and let it rest there, like a hand on your cheek. No need to move. No need to think. When you open your eyes again, the forest feels brighter, but no less still. A stream runs somewhere in the distance, its voice low and constant, like a soft line drawn across the day. You stand once more, letting your fingers trail along the trunks as you pass, each one unique in its patterns and grooves. The moss is deeper in some places, thinner in others, but always present, like the memory of quiet company, like the warmth of a cabin whose roof you no longer see, but still carry inside you. You walk slowly, not toward anything, but with something. There's a place just beyond the rise, a gentle slope where the trees part slightly and the underbrush softens. You reach it in time with the light, and the moment feels like a held breath. The leaves above shift in the breeze, and the world hums with the low rhythm of day beginning in full. This is not a departure. It is a continuation, a return, perhaps, to the space between places. You stand there for a long while, not deciding, not measuring, just being. The wind brushes past your ear, and it feels like a word you've always known but never needed to speak. And so you step forward again, the path quiet beneath your feet. The cabin remains behind the trees, untouched, unchanged, waiting not for you, but for anyone who listens deeply enough to notice it. The forest stretches ahead, soft and wide and welcoming. There is no destination. There is only the motion of walking gently through stillness, with memories folded like letters inside your heart. And the trail continues, slowly, softly, patiently, into the trees. The trees begin to thin, just slightly. The path no longer curves in sharp turns, but flows in long, lazy arcs, as though winding down with you. The moss underfoot is springy and familiar, like the final few pages of a well-loved book. Around you, the sounds of the forest have softened to their gentlest tones, the sigh of wind through pine, the hush of branches brushing together, and the subtle tap of leaves touching earth. You slow your steps without meaning to, sensing something behind you has grown still again. The cabin, perhaps, or just the part of you that it awakened. You glance once over your shoulder. There is no view of the house, no glimpse of its roof. Through the trees. But you feel it, quiet and undisturbed, resting like a memory wrapped in green. You do not miss it. You do not cling. It has simply joined the collection of things within you now, like the tea's warmth, the candlelight, and the sound of dripping water in silence. It will stay there, not fading, but softening into something that needs no remembering to remain. Some places are like that. They find their way into your breath. You pass a shallow stream, stepping over it carefully. The water is slow and clear, winding between mossy stones. It reflects the sky like a mirror, too still to notice. You crouch there for a moment and press your fingers into the cool edge, then rise again and follow the trail as it climbs gently uphill. Every motion feels smooth, almost circular, as though this walk was never about going anywhere, but returning gently to yourself. A few birds stir in the canopy above, and a breeze lifts, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp bark. Along, you find a patch of golden grass, opened like a quiet clearing. You sit there for a while, not because you are tired, but because it feels like a place to pause. Around the edges, small wildflowers bob in the breeze, tiny white stars. On tall stems, you lie back, staring at the slow drift of clouds above the treetops. The forest hums all around you, not louder now, but closer, as though it leans in to offer one final lullaby. The earth beneath you feels warm from the afternoon sun, and your fingers graze the tops of the grasses lazily. The sun leans westward. Long beams of light reach through the trees, catching motes of dust that dance in the hush. You sit up again, brushing the grass from your sleeves, and notice how still the world feels. Not frozen, but settled, content. The path picks up again just beyond the clearing, marked by the soft indentations of forest floor and the whisper of leaves above. You walk slower now, not from fatigue, but from fullness. There is nothing left to seek, nothing more to uncover, only to savor what has already been found. A log lies across the trail, split and hollow with age. You place your hand on it as you step over, and the bark flakes beneath your fingers like paper. Even in its decay, the log offers steadiness, a reminder that nothing vanishes, only transforms. Wood to moss, time to stillness, memories to light. Beyond it, the trail gently bends back toward the direction you came from, circling into the quiet rhythm of return. The breeze softens, and the golden hour settles gently across the forest like a second blanket. Your steps are barely audible now. The ground accepts them easily, like it expected you. No signposts mark the end of the journey. There is no gate, no door, no conclusion. Just trees giving way to sky, shadows stretching a little farther, and a long breath escaping your lungs. You stop one final time, not to look back, but to simply stand still. The quiet is complete here. There is nothing left to say, and nothing to be answered. Only the fullness of being here, now, surrounded by something older than words. At the edge of the woods, you find a smooth stone tucked beneath a tree. You crouch beside it and rest your hand upon its surface. It is warm from the day, though the air has cooled slightly. You don't know why you stop here, or why this moment feels so complete. But it does. There is nothing carved into the stone, no message left behind. And yet, it feels like a parting place, a gentle pause, not goodbye. You rise again, standing tall among the last of the trees, and breathe in deeply. The forest holds its breath with you, then releases. And here, you rest, just for a while. The forest behind you still holds the shape of your footsteps. The house you left remains in its quiet place, untouched, waiting. Not for your return, but simply to be just as it was before, just as it will be again. Its windows will gather light. The pages of its books will wait without dust. The drawer of maps will remain gently closed. And in the folds of bark and moss, and in the stillness beneath candlelight, something will always remember you are there. You feel it as you exhale. A kind of softness in your chest, not longing, not even memory. Just a peaceful knowing that some places live inside us, even when we walk away. You carry the silence now, tucked behind your ribs. You carry the tea, the firelight, the creak of old wood, and the hush of books. You carry the sense of being deeply, fully here. And as the light fades from the trees, and the last of the wind passes gently through the leaves, you close your eyes. And now, as your breath softens and the quiet deepens, may your dreams find their own forgotten house in the woods. Sleep well, and we'll meet again by the firelight.